finally, I want to welcome to the podium the person whose brainchild this conference really is. Our friend, the former Republican Study Committee chair, the founder of the Anti-Woke Caucus, and the future senator from Indiana, Jim Banks.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you for being here today. How about that panel? I thought they were terrific. We've had a great crowd. We've had a great discussion. I just want to share a few closing thoughts with all of you. Something that we all have in common, I think, who have come here to be a part of this today, is that we all agree that America is in a war to preserve this country as the greatest country in the history of the world. And that's my big takeaway from conservatism and today's panel, and why I think it's so important that so many more of my colleagues digest this book. So many more of you go out and share the contents of this book, because that's also the difference between, I believe, between the old GOP and the new GOP. And you just got a flavor of that from three of my colleagues who I respect so greatly, and it's why we hand-selected them to come and speak to all of you today, because they understand that we are in a war, that this is a battle to save the country, and they operate in that way each and every day in their service on Capitol Hill. The woke left has declared war on America. They are trying to destroy our country so that they can rebuild it from the ground up according to their rules, not according to the Constitution, Congress, or the law. And I think all of us understand, especially after this discussion, if you've read the contents of the book, you understand this even more. This isn't a partial war. This is a total war. The left isn't demanding unconditional surrender. So we have to stop calling for truces. And we have to stop backing down to the left in the way that the old GOP would do every single time that they had even a little bit of power to fight back. The other side isn't interested in honest negotiating. So really, who cares about arguing over tax credits when they want illegal immigrants to be able to vote? The left believes in chemically castrating children, and they want parents who disagree with them to lose custody of their kids. So I've been to a war. I served in a war in Afghanistan, and you know, when you've been to a war, you know that when you're in a war, you've got to see through the fog of war. I think this is really important. I think what Up From Conservatism does more than anything, it helps us see through the fog of war. So we need to assess the situation that we're in truthfully. So let's be honest about a few things. You just heard from three of my esteemed colleagues. I mean, one of them did a great service to America when she defeated Liz Cheney in the election last year. We just talked about it. She did it by the largest margin of victory that any challenger has ever beat an incumbent member of Congress. Harriet Hageman beat Liz Cheney by that margin and even a whole lot more. You heard from Dan Bishop, who I believe is has one of the strongest backbones of anyone who serves in Congress. The guy never backs down. And you heard from Dr. Brian Babin, who I believe is the most decent man to walk the halls of the Congress. And all three of them, you got a flavor of this already. All three of them know that we've been in the majority for 1 year, and we don't have a whole lot to show for it. And I think this is, Harriet, I think this is shameful. We've had the majority for a year. We don't have a whole lot to show for it. So let's be honest about it. What have we accomplished over the last year? I suppose one thing we accomplished is we turned a 5-seat majority into a 2-seat majority. No one's ever done that before. We've really fallen flat on our face in holding Mayorkas and Biden accountable. We sure got that Santos guy, right? Maybe those are the two accomplishments of this Congress. Now, I'm really enjoying the cameo videos. So if that's what it took to get the fun cameo videos, maybe that was worth it. I don't know. But a 5-seat majority and a 2-seat majority, and literally nothing legislative-wise after 1 year in the majority that this Republican majority can show to the American people that we've done with it, that we've done with what they gave us when they gave us the power of the gavels and the majority. But on the flip side, and I think this is really important, what a lot of people think of and look at when they look at the House and the Republican majority, what a lot of people call chaos, I think is progress. Okay, why do I say that? Because my grandpa always said two things. He said, why is it that the Democrats all go do what Nancy Pelosi tells them to do, and Republicans just kind of, flap in the wind and fight with themselves? In this case, I think that chaos and those internal fights are a sign of the new GOP winning. I mean, I really do. I think that the fights that we've had in the House, this Congress, with the new Republicans like Harriet and other new Republicans in the House, show some progress. Now, another thing that I point to when I think of progress is the very first speaker that we heard from today. J.D. Vance, I believe, is the very best of what we've got going for us in the new GOP and the United States Senate. Okay, he's the smartest man in the Senate, and he represents the new flavor of the GOP that we're all looking for. And one thing that JD is doing, he didn't talk about it today, but he's blocking every single Biden Department of Justice nominee. I think one of our Claremont panelists talked about this, not going along with nominees who don't stand for America and don't put America first and voting against them. You got Senator Tuberville, who's holding up Pentagon nominees. I know he gave up on a lot of the holds last week, but there are still 11 very woke generals who are being blocked for promotion by Senator Tuberville and Senator Eric Schmidt from Missouri, who's joined into that crusade to stop woke generals from being elevated even further at the Pentagon. Now, what do all three of those United States senators have in common? They're all freshman, first-year United States Republican senators. And for me, that gives me hope that the new right is moving the party in the right direction. You even have Mitch McConnell and Mitt Romney now saying no more blank checks for Ukraine. How about that? That's progress, right? I can't name 3 provinces in Ukraine either. But I'm not voting for money to go to Ukraine and bankrupting my country while our southern border remains wide open. So earlier this year, in closing, we started the first ever anti-woke caucus in Congress. I thought it was clever at the time. We gathered dozens of my Republican colleagues who feel like I do that wokeism is a cancer that is eating America inside out and will do so if we don't do something to stop it. Harriet Hageman is a leader in the anti-woke caucus. Congressman Bishop and Congressman Babin attend every single one of our anti-woke caucus meetings. What we've done is we've come together to strategize. We don't just get together and talk about it. We strategize, and then we write amendments and advance those amendments in a lot of the bills that move their way through the House. And we've passed amendments out of the House that aren't going anywhere in the Senate, but to reinstate COVID vaccine discharges from the military. We've passed amendments to ban drag shows on Department of Defense bases, ending racial discrimination at military academies, slashing DEI bureaucrats' pay. It's one of the few things that actually did survive in the NDAA that's going to pass out of both the House and the Senate is an amendment that the anti-woke caucus led to cap DEI bureaucrats' pay at a very low amount at the Pentagon. We prohibit the Department of Defense from paying disinformation firms like NewsGuard to censor Americans. That's an amendment that actually did pass all the way through. So we've had some big wins out of the House and some smaller wins that will pass all the way out of the Congress because of our strategizing and coming together to work as an anti-woke caucus. Representative Babin, by the way, passed an amendment to zero out Secretary Mayorkas' salary, like that passed out of the House to completely zero out his pay. Representative Hageman passed an amendment to defund DHS's environmental justice and climate literacy strategy. Okay, I mean, it's crazy to say that out loud, but Harriet Hageman passed an amendment out of the entire House of Representatives to do that. Senator Vance and I just introduced legislation to pull federal student aid assistance from colleges that failed to comply with the Supreme Court's affirmative action ban. That's a bill that we've collectively worked on in the House and the Senate that is a product of the anti-woke caucus. So the big point here, to summarize everything that we've talked about, is this: Republicans are starting to fight back like we haven't fought back before. We're doing it in an organized way, and we're going to keep doing it over the next year so that after 2024, we have a chance to end and win this war for America once and for all. So let me, because he didn't do it, and I think it's really important, let me wrap this up, Arthur, by reading an excerpt from, I think, the most brilliant thing that you've ever written. I say that with a lot of humility, as someone who's read a lot of the important work that you and Claremont Institute has done. In its opening pages of From Conservatism, Arthur Millick writes this: "The time calls for another renewal with new goals, different strategies, and a disposition that fits a changing America. A marked change in the new right is one in attitude, a growing boldness that restores something near to real politics. Overt contention concerning core questions of the common good. The new right recognizes the left as an enemy, not merely an opposing movement, because the left today promotes a tyrannical conception of justice that is irreconcilable with the American idea of justice. The establishment right hoped to be left alone. The new right understands that that is impossible. The left is imperious, morally and politically. The left cannot rest until all minds, institutions, traditions, and laws are assimilated to its project. It has shown its willingness to tear through all of America's accumulated social capital, to tear down all institutions, including churches and families, to humiliate, corner, and dissolve all opposition. It has not hesitated to deploy violent mobs against cities, suburbs, and individual residences, to subvert the rule of law, and to employ eliminationist rhetoric against America, its monuments, its symbols, its people that it hates. The left's relentless and intensifying assault on America has made many citizens question whether the nation can endure. Millions have tried to move to safety out of blue cities and states or into suburbs and rural areas. Others still hope that they will be left alone. But the new right sees that hiding in the woods is not a viable political strategy. Only a few clever dissidents may be able to swim alongside the shark like suckerfish. And even this will work for only a limited time. There must be a political force that earnestly opposes this tyranny and wields legitimate political power in a way the old right was allergic to. That is the goal of the new right. And with that, thank you for participating today. Please digest this and share it, share the contents of it. Have a good day.